Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tectonic Plates. Today we are going to tackle two recipes. Both recipes need 4 ingredients each, and we're going to do them at the same time. We're going to do a bacon apple grilled cheese as well as a potato soup. So we're going to do these both at the same time, and we actually start by getting the soup ready. So the soup's going to be going on the back burner here. And this could not be any more simple. You're almost cheating to call this a recipe. It's really, really very simple. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go with some chicken stock. If you don't have chicken stock or chicken broth, you can always go water in here, and then some people do bouillon cubes, and they put some bouillon cubes in there. This does the same thing, except it's all in one container. It's your liquid, it's your seasoning, all in one. So open it up, and this is so simple. The whole thing goes in. Let me give it a quick shake to get all the good bits off the bottom. Okay, all that goes in. And then the next piece that's going to go in here is the last thing, really, that's going to go in for the next about 15 to 20 minutes. And this is something that you probably have in one of many ways. You could have potatoes, celery, peppers, different color peppers, onions. You could have that all separate and cut those up and throw those in. Or, here's a super quick and easy shortcut. A bag of frozen roasted potatoes with peppers and onions. Now, you can find this in the freezer section of your grocer. You can also use a bag of something called Potatoes O'Brien. If you find that maybe at your Kroger or your Meijer, you can use that as well. So I'm going to cut this open because I forgot to do it a minute ago. And this could not be any more simple. Cut the top open. Throw it all in there. It's in. This has already been roasted. All of these vegetables have already been roasted. And if you turn it over, it tells you all of the seasonings and stuff that are in there, and the spices as well. Olive oil's in there, rosemary, garlic, mustard flavor, chili pepper, sage. All this stuff is already in there. So you have a super quick and super easy beginning to your soup. Now, the last thing that I like to include, it's about 50% of the time. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, is some carrot, because there's not any carrot in that vegetable medley there. So that's going to go in. The flame is on. I'm going to give this a quick stir to just incorporate everything. And really, that's just about it for about 20 minutes. All you need to do from this point, cover it, and let it do its thing. Again, 15 to 20 minutes. So, I could at this point just give you another 15 minutes of me just looking at you. It'd be very boring. Or, we can get started on our next recipe, which is that bacon apple grilled cheese sandwich. So, this works out really well. So let's get the fire going on the bacon first. Alright. Now, I'm going to make sandwiches for 2 adults and 2 kids. Family of 4, which I just happen to have. This is fully cooked bacon that you can find in the refrigerated section of your grocery store. You might be saying, okay, well, wait a minute, you just said it was fully cooked. Why are you putting it on the skillet? Well, because if you've never worked with this cooked bacon before, it's still pretty fatty, and who doesn't like crisp bacon? So I always take my pre-cooked bacon and I throw it on the skillet to crispen it up. So that's that. The bacon is on the fire. It will be good to go here. Give it just a few minutes. While the bacon is cooking, one of the next stages that we're going to need to do for this bacon apple grilled cheese sandwich is to cut up some apples. So if you stay right there, I'll bring it down to you. So we're using one of the Gala apples today. It's already been rinsed. And here's something that you may have. It's a quick apple corer and slicer. If you don't have this, you can just old-fashioned, with your parents' permission, use a knife and cut the apple. Okay? So first thing you want to do is get it in there. Okay, and then use these super duty and very handy handles and press right down. And then I always just use my thumb to push out the pieces, because we've had this apple slicer for a while, and I think that it's probably dulled a little bit over the years, so it doesn't usually get all the way through. But there you go. You end up with a cored apple. You end up with your pieces, and you just throw the core away. Or if you, have any use for the core, go for it. Like if you're a composter, if you like to do composting for your garden, you can definitely put the apple core in there, and the worms would enjoy it. Okay, so the apples have been cut, but they're kind of big pieces, and what I like to do is, this is just preference, this is not anything that you have to do, but I found that a wedge like this is kind of big for a sandwich, so I like to cut them in half. That gives you some smaller pieces, and your bites on your sandwich will be a little bit more, well, I guess comfortable, because you're not going to get a big, as big of a piece, or almost a too big piece of an apple slice. You're going to get one that's a pretty good size. So just with a little knife here, just take your apple core or apple pieces that you've already cut and cut some of them in half. Now if you don't mind large apple slices, then leave them. And you can also use any variety really of apple that you might like. If you are like a Granny Smith or a green tart apple person, go for it. If you like the Honey Crisps, that tends to be one of the favorites around our house, go for the Honey Crisp. Honey Crisps are usually very expensive compared to the other apples though, so you might want to keep that in mind when you're doing your shopping. All right, knife over there. All right, we've timed it out pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and flip the bacon. And that is, I remember from last episode, I tried to tell you about when you're flipping things, you want to always, especially if they're greasy or if there's oil in the pan, you want to flip them away from you so that you don't get a grease splatter. Well, I think that one ended up turning anyway, so we'll leave that one there. And turn this one. Okay. Now, these are taking just a bit, so I'm going to bring up the heat a little bit. All right. So, last couple things that we need to think about before we start assembling the sandwiches. We have our apples. Check. The bacon is just about done. Probably give it another minute or two, and then I will set that off to the side. The cheese that we're going to use for the bacon apple grilled cheese today is one that, admittedly, I had never heard of until I found this in a recipe book. Actually, my wife did. It's Havarti cheese. This is kind of in the same family as a provolone. It is a cow's cheese. It is, it's not a sharp flavor like a sharp cheddar. It doesn't have a bold flavor. It's a very mild cheese. It's not quite Swiss, and it's not quite provolone. It's somewhere in the middle. If you don't have Havarti cheese, go with whatever cheese you like. If you are an American cheese person, go for it. If you're a cheddar cheese person, go for it. I don't know that Parmesan will work very well. I think that cheese is too hard. But we're going to go with the Havarti cheese today. All right, and we actually do have some provolone in the fridge. If we do run out of Havarti, then provolone will be what we'll use next. All right, this bacon is bubbling up nice. I'm going to grab a plate with some paper towels. Throw it on that. Whoop, just about lost my paper towels. Let it drain for a minute. And while that's draining, actually, while you're setting that aside, we're going to use the skillet to build our sandwiches. And if you've never made a grilled cheese before, you start with one piece of the bread already down on the skillet. So, bacon's coming up. Now, if you're a bacon lover like I am, you might try to sneak 5 pieces of bacon on your own sandwich. But I wouldn't recommend that. So we put 2 pieces of bacon per sandwich here, and then for our youngins, we break up 1 piece and make it look like there's more. All right, this is going to set off to the side, cool and drain. All right, and then this oil here left over, the fat from the bacon, I don't want that there. So just like last time, I don't want that to sit and burn and then impact what we're trying to make next in the skillet. So I'm going to get some wet paper towels, kind of hold it off the flame here. And that's just water that you're hearing from the paper towel. And I'm going to wipe that up so that we don't have a bunch of burned bacon grease. Now, because there was cold water on here, we just dropped the temperature of the skillet a little bit. So I'm going to give it a second to warm back up until I throw that away. Okay, next thing we're going to do here, check on the soup. So I'm going to test. Okay, that's not too hot. Open that up. Things are moving just fine. Starting to bubble a little bit, not much, but everything in there is starting to get warm. I'm going to bring that flame up a little bit. All right. Now, let's roll with the sandwich. I'm going to throw that in there. All right, let's roll with the sandwich. Bread first. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5. Pretend I got 4, and I got it on the first try. All right. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. There is one thing I want to do on the griddle before I put the bread down. So let me grab a small plate. I want to throw some butter on the skillet. There's a trick to this. To know if your griddle is too hot or not. And in this case, the butter is going to be the indicator that tells you if your skillet is too hot or not. I'm going to put some on there, and all 4 of the pieces of bread are going to go down first. Now, okay, you see the butter, it's still yellow. That's all right. Okay, if this butter had turned brown instantly, then that means too hot, back off, let it cool down, and try it again in a minute. Okay, so if your butter goes brown, abort the mission and take this off the skillet and let it cool down, take it off the heat for a minute, and then try it again after it's cooled down, even turn down the flame. Okay, we have the 4 sandwiches are down now. We are starting to build our bacon apple grilled cheese. So the first thing that we want to do when we're building the bacon apple grilled cheese is to go with the cheese. And this is open now. Now I'm going to use all of these, so I'm going to throw the package away. All right. So 1 piece per bread slice. Probably that way. Okay. Now I'm going to open up, I'm out, so I'm going to open up the next pack. And sometimes these have little perforations on them, and sometimes they don't. This one doesn't, so I'm just going to have to use my scissors and cut it open. It's not a big deal. All right. Last piece of cheese goes on. There we are. And then So it is a grilled cheese, so cheese gets top billing. But it is also a bacon apple grilled cheese. So here's how I like to assemble them so that they don't fall apart when I flip them over. The bacon is flat. So I take one piece, break it in half, side by side. Take another piece, break it in half, side by side. Then I take about 5 pieces of apple that I have already sliced. Now here's the trick to making this cut so easy when I'm ready to cut it into triangles to eat it. I'm going to try to leave an imaginary diagonal line right here without any apple in this line right here. I'm going to keep my apple pieces avoiding a little line right here. So I'm going to do like this, put one over here, and my last one kind of right there. And when I put the other piece of bread on top of this, I'm going to cut it right down there so I don't cut the apples and have a chunky mess. So I'm going to build the next ones. In the same way. And then got some bacon here. And our youngest might not eat this at all. So I'll have to maybe throw one more piece of bacon on there for him. I think I was a little bit shy on the bacon. So same thing with the apples. Arrange them in a way that I'm going to leave myself that imaginary line to cut through. The soup is going, I think you might even be able to hear it. That soup is boiling away. Really could not be easier. Okay, that's safe. There you go. That is boiling away. And really, this soup is almost done. And it's almost feel like cheating to say I'm going to teach you how to make potato soup when it's really that easy. Okay, one more over here. And this one's for our 2-year-old, so he can be kind of finicky like 2-year-olds can be. So I don't know what he's going to eat, so I'm going to play it safe on that one. Okay, so we've got bacon, we've got apples, we've got cheese. Last thing we need is one more piece of cheese, and then the other pieces of bread go on top. And we are done with the bacon apple grilled cheese to where we can flip them over. So, here we go. Okay, other piece of cheese goes on top. 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay. So we've got the next piece of cheese here. Again, if you've never heard of Havarti, I highly recommend you give it a try. If you're a mild flavored cheese person, then it's definitely up your alley. You will enjoy it. Okay, bread goes on top. Ah, look at that, I got 3 this time. Right on. Okay, now I'm going to take these. Here's the bacon plate that I was using a bit ago. I probably left that open, sorry. Here's the bacon plate I used a minute ago. I'm going to take the paper towels off, and I'm going to use this plate just as a staging area for a second, because I'm going to take these off and leave them with the grilled side down so that I can put more butter down on the griddle, and then flip them. Now, let's see if my griddle's too hot. Remember the trick? It probably will be a little bit hotter here. Ah. Not bad. The bubbles are still yellow, so we are at a really good place with our butter. All right, so carefully turn it away, let it sit. There you go. Turn it away, back your hand, let it sit. Nice and slow. When you get scared and you move quickly and you move jittery, that's where you can get splatters sometimes. So only do that part if you're confident. If you're not confident, have an older person do that for you. Okay? Right over. You want to get that bread in that butter. Okay, here. Now turn it over. Walk your fingers back, let it fall, let it sit. Okay. There you go. Alright. These are looking mighty tasty. Now, while this other side is grilling, the flame isn't too hot. It's nice and low. We're going to slowly toast this bread. We've got a minute. So we can use this time to finish up the soup. Okay, so I'm going to put this over here. Out of the way. All right. Test. We're good. I'm going to stir that. Oh, yeah. Okay. That is perfect. All right. I'm going to set this lid off to the side. Now, that's a little bit hot, so I'm going to grab my UGG gloves. No, they're not a sponsor. Why did I just grab one? I don't know. Okay, I'm going to kind of bring that off the heat for a minute. Okay. I'm going to lower... Actually, just go ahead and turn it off, because I'll put this back on in a second. Okay, so this has done nothing. Pardon me, I'm going to grab something from right here. I forgot to grab this earlier. Our potato masher. Okay. So, if you don't have one of these, you can use an immersion blender. It's one of those handheld, like kind of, we call them boat motors, some of us do. But this is just a potato masher. Now, everything in here has just been boiling away for about 15 to 20 minutes. So all you're going to do now is carefully press in and mash everything that's in here. I do not think you will have a problem doing this part. But if you are mashing and you find that you're getting a lot of resistance, like it's tough to squish the potatoes or something, that means the potatoes haven't all the way cooked through yet. So leave it on the flame for probably another 5 minutes and try it again. This is not something that you should feel like you've got to press down a whole lot. This is something that should be a really easy motion, and you're just squishing everything down. And it's okay to squish the peppers, and it's okay to squish the onions if they happen to be under your potato masher. It's all right. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I like to scrape the bottom with the flat end of my potato masher just to make sure that I've gotten everything off the bottom, and I'm done with the potato masher. And here's the last step. This is a little 1 pint. It's a pint of half and half. If you don't have half and half, it just won't be as creamy. You can also, if you have to use milk, you can throw in some butter, a little bit of butter. That will help kind of bring some of the creaminess back. But you just need about a pint of half and half, and this whole thing is going to go in. Okay? So this has been in the refrigerator. You can find this right next to the milks and in the refrigerated area of your grocery store. There's Kroger, there's Meijer, there's Trader Joe's, there's anything and everything. All of it goes in. And I hear the grilled cheese is bubbling away. It's done, so I'm going to kill that flame and just move it off right over there. It's happy. It's ready. It's done. Okay, the half and half goes in. Okay, couple things to keep in mind here. Number one, you just put something that's been refrigerated, something very cold, in a pot of things that were boiling away. So when you stir this, you're going to mix in something very cold with something that was still pretty warm. So if you want to put this back on the heat for about 5 minutes to let it come up to temperature, you can. Otherwise, you can still see some steam coming off of there. It's still plenty warm. You might even call it hot still. It's ready just like this. It's ready just like that. So just for safety, because I have little kids around, I'm going to move it back to the back of my stovetop. And now we're going to serve it. So here's our soup bowl. And here's our plate. I'm going to put the plate right there. Actually, I'm not going to cut the sandwich because I don't have room to safely do that right here. So I'm just going to take the sandwich whole and take it right off. But if you want to see the other side, boom, glorious. Okay, that's going to go right there. Now for our 2-year-old, I will end up cutting his, and for our 5-year-old, that's his. But you get the idea. And now that the soup is done, grab a ladle. It's one of these guys right here. And you're just going to go right in here. Grab yourself some soup. It's rustic because it has the potato skins still on the pieces of roasted potato. It's flavorful. It's got all those spices and flavors and herbs that I told you about before. All the rosemary, the garlic, the different peppers, and the chili or this and that, or you know, all the good stuff that's in there. The olive oil, all that's in your soup. I haven't had to put any salt, any pepper, any additional seasonings whatsoever. And that's it. You've got a bacon apple grilled cheese. You have tomato soup. I'm sorry, tomato. You have potato soup. That was super easy to make. And it sure is. It sure is. And well, they're excited. You've got a sandwich that took 4 ingredients to make. And the dinner bell is clanging over here, so but I'm going to cut that down this way so you can see.
Time for dinner.
All right. Put that right there so you can see this.
Time for dinner, Daddy.
It is. Have a seat, please, and I will bring this to you.
Well, I'm actually...
That's fantastic. You've got your bacon apple grilled cheese in there, and the dinner crowd's getting ready to get on the table here, so... Yeah. All day long. That's great. So, bacon apple grilled cheese with potato soup, done in about 20 minutes, and it feeds the whole family. Good luck with this recipe. I really think you're going to like it. Thanks for watching.
It's time.